there are all of these aging action fighters who will just not be retired by the sport, but just choose to retire themselves, in which all of this new generation has not replaced them. They've just had to wait out them retiring.
All right, welcome to another episode of Two Fight Fans, where we talk about all things in combat sports. I'm one fight fan, Colin,
And I'm the other Stuart.
and today we are talking about the aftermath of 313.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Yeah.
This. Oh boy, where do we even start with this card? Well, first of all, actually, apparently they have now made this card free on ESPN Plus because, the vast majority of people just could not watch it, and they were having issues left and right. Some people being charged twice for the card, so. Does UFC just not give a shit about its deal with ESPN now? What's going on here?
Oh, no, I think the exact opposite, Colin. This was an issue on ESPN's part.
Okay, fair.
ESPN couldn't properly, as a platform, deliver the actual product that the UFC was filming and properly delivering to them, right? It wasn't distributing the actual event. And so this was a bath that ESPN had to take. It already gives the UFC the equivalent of $200,000 or $300,000 worth of pay-per-view buys for every event that it allows to do on it. And if it breaks 300,000, it owes them slightly more. Instead, it couldn't even sell 200,000 pay-per-view buys, and so it had to give the rest of them away for free because of payment issues. Because ESPN Plus as an app and service absolutely sucks. So I'm sure the UFC is super happy with it because at the end of this year, they get to negotiate with every other streaming service, every other platform who gets to hand out UFC pay-per-view events. And so the UFC has a much stronger hand now to go, you've got such a shitty service. How can we rely on you to properly distribute our product? And if ESPN wants to keep it, it's got to come way correct with the price for the UFC. So this is actually better for the UFC, but bad for us consumers because it turns out no one could watch it.
Yeah. All right. That is a very well put together and eloquent explanation of that. So thank you, Stevie.
I don't know about that. I've got a spoiler alert for everyone at home. I have a fever about 100 right now. I watch these fights with a fever of 103, much like Foreigner's 1978 classic Hot Blooded. I am burning up, So, but yeah, overall, ESPN Plus. It was ESPN Plus' faults, not the UFC's. Though we can definitely blame the UFC for many of the things that happened at this card and across this week. But let's actually jump into this card. Colin, now that it's done on a scale of A through F.
A scale of A through F.
Yeah. How good was this card?
I would give it a C plus.
That feels
C plus
right.
B minus. Yeah.
Ooh, no. Let's not sneak up into the B's. The other students will be unhappy. we'll just say we'll say on their test we'll write in red ink solid C plus. That's what we'll say. We won't go up into the B's.
All right.
Yeah, this was a C card.
Yeah.
Which fight do you want to talk about first? Should we just start from the top?
Yeah, we'll start from the top.
All right. So I think there's probably three things we need to address. First, Colin.
Yeah.
How did you score Magomed Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira?
God. I mean, I could have given it 3-2 or 4-1. I could see the argument for even 5-0, Ankalaev.
No, not 5-0. Come
now. You wouldn't give him the first? You didn't give him any chance in the first round?
No.
Okay.
The first or fifth, I think, are pretty hard to give Ankalaev.
The first one, I definitely I gave it to Pereira, but the more I thought about it, and I thought like second and third, definitely not. Fourth, you have to squint real hard. Fifth, also like I just didn't see much. Like if you were, and again, this is me being a total Pereira fanboy, like you kind of have to like let your bias like push it in his direction, But like I honestly, this was going to be my question to you. Were you more like shocked by Pereira's lack of ability to like execute his game plan or his fighting style? Or were you more impressed with Ankalaev and his ability to disrupt Pereira?
Well, okay, so hold on. Let me quickly answer the first question that I
Yes,
posed
yes,
to
yes,
you,
yes,
which
yes.
was I gave rounds 1 and 5 to Pereira, so I had
Okay,
3
I
rounds.
only gave him round one.
Wow, not even round 5?
Nope.
Fucking hater. That's
I
what you are.
am.
Yeah.
And listen, I was sad at myself. I was mad.
Dumbass,
I was
Saul Diamato fucking clone. Jesus Christ, giving him 4 rounds. Nah, I
Yeah,
can't see
man.
4. I have a hard time seeing 4 rounds. I could
Okay,
definitely
okay.
see, like, I can see 3 to 2 for either of them pretty easily because round 3
Mm.
is apparently the biggest swing round. And I could kind of see it either way. 2 and 4 clearly on Ankalaev. 1 and 5 clearly Pereira. Round 3, I think it feels comfortable to say Ankalaev, but if you gave it to Pereira, I'm not mad.
Mm.
Talking about who I'm more impressed by, or like, is this a factor of Ankalaev doing well or Pereira doing poorly? Here are the reasons why I think it's more so Ankalaev doing a good job rather than Ankalaev doing a bad job. Number one, we routinely made fun of Ankalaev on this podcast.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we call him a donk. We call him a man with donkey brains. We said he makes bad decisions routinely. He didn't for 25 minutes make a bad decision in this fight. He
Mhm.
for 25 minutes remained disciplined. He for 25 minutes stuck to a game plan. He for 25 minutes didn't do anything absolutely stupid,
Yeah,
which is a first for him.
yeah. Uncharacteristic. That's what I was saying. Like, was this the best that Ankalaev has ever fought before?
Yeah, is this his Cody Garbrandt versus Dominic Cruz type performance? I don't know.
Uh,
Because like this definitely, we knew that he had the skills for it, right? Like we talked about it before, but like that he's a good striker and not really a grappler. And so it was this thing of like, oh, okay, like he did it, but I didn't know he could keep that up for 25 minutes. I thought like maybe 15 minutes, then he'll have a donkey brains 4th round and like get
mhm.
starch, or like he'll kind of crumble. But he didn't. So I gotta give him credit for that. Number 2 is he totally understood the assignment as a southpaw against Pereira. He routinely held outside foot position,
Mhm.
uh, meaning that Alex Pereira could not easily get off the lead leg calf kick that he likes to do. And when he did, he would have to like kind of do that shuffle step or like step up front leg kick, and then reset. And Ankalaev was pretty good at like either pressing in or moving back when he did that. So it took the sting off those kicks because at no point did it feel like those kicks were really affecting him.
Mhm.
And he constantly was patting down and grabbing and brushing away the lead hand, which is Pereira's left hook, right? He kept
Yeah.
putting his hand on the lead hand. He had such good hand fighting and lead hand control that that mixed with the footwork meant that everything that makes Pereira uncomfortable with a southpaw was just like magnified because we saw that as a southpaw, Khalil Roundtree could easily hit him with the rear hand and could easily get inside and actually land in combinations where somebody that was orthodox would not be able to. But he would stay instantly in the pocket and would not like dominate outside foot control. It would not dominate the hand fighting for each round. And so it was something where Ankalaev realized I need to do both of those things and I need to be disciplined about that for 25 minutes. And he did that. And I think that really nullified a lot of the things that Pereira does, which is that left hook and that calf kick to the lead leg. So he immediately muted all of his offense. And then lastly, he realized that if you pressure Pereira, not in a dumb way like Khalil Roundtree or Yuri Prochazka, which is run in, then be stationary once you've finished so that Pereira can immediately like blast you after the fact. But actually just like actually get out of the way. Like get in and then immediately get out of range. Uh in a weird way, it felt like Pereira is kind of like Edson Barbosa, right? Like Edson Barbosa is if you let him press forward and set his feet, he'll kick you and punch you and chew you to pieces. But if you can keep him on the back foot, like Khabib did, like Justin Gaethje did, like Kevin Lee did, he's not as good off the
Mm,
back foot when he's constantly forced to back up and circle away. And Ankalaev seemed to do all three of those things very, very well,
yep.
um, which created the most boring Alex Pereira fight I've ever seen, but also the most exciting Ankalaev fight I've ever seen,
Mhm.
which is this weird mixed bag of just kind of a like meh fight.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't know what did you take from it? Was it more? Were you more impressed by Ankalaev or more disappointed by Pereira, knowing your bias that you are a Pereira fanboy?
I honestly, a little bit of both. It was like you said, like we have ripped into Ankalaev about being donkey brained, about
Mm-hmm.
just like potentially having skill sets, but never really showing us the discipline or like knowledge to use said skill sets, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and and for me, I don't know if this just kind of exposed Pereira a little bit because we always thought like, okay, the key to defeating Pereira is going to be a really strong grappler, someone who can wrestle him and take him to the ground where they can nullify his insane death touch power. But it turns out if you're a natural southpaw, you know, and you don't just try to stand and bang with him, you can frustrate him and you can win on points that way. So it may not be the flashiest way to beat Pereira, but when you're going for a championship, you're not looking to win flash like in a flashy way. You're looking to come away with gold. So
Yeah.
like I mean, you do have to commend Ankalaev for, like you said, like implementing the exact right game plan to neutralize all of the issues or all the dangers that Pereira throws. Because there was never a point where I thought like Ankalaev is in danger. You know, he never got really stumbled, never got like, ooh, that leg kick hurt him. You know, and now he's
Mhm.
like his mobility is taken out or anything like that. There's never a moment, and I kept waiting for it. I kept waiting for Pereira to find like, okay, to get his rhythm, like we saw with Cleo Roundtree, where when like on that fourth round, he just found the rhythm, found the timing, and he could just hit at will. And I was waiting for that to happen. And it was like he was trying to figure out the puzzle the entire time and just couldn't, he just couldn't get the read. He couldn't put it together. And, you know, I love Alex Pereira. I think, you know, some of the things he's done is absolutely incredible. And I guess this really does point out the fact that, yeah, there are some fighters when you put a southpaw in front of them, it does highlight that whole almost cliche that like a southpaw is the most dangerous matchup for any orthodox fighter.
Yeah. I mean, I think like talking about the finding his range or like with Khalil Roundtree, I do like still want to highlight like and Yuri when they would get into exchanges, they would finish their exchange directly in front of. They would throw their combination and like enter a neutral state right in front of Pereira, so that he could kick them and hook them and punch them. Right?
Right.
They like very rarely like threw a combination and then exited immediately, which
Mm.
Ankalaev did very well. I also think like that thought process of the weakness to beating Alex Pereira is a wrestler. Ankalaev went 0 and 12 for takedowns, but it almost doesn't matter because the whole point of those takedowns was just to keep Pereira nervous about the
Yeah.
takedown, right? Like it was just it doesn't matter if I get this. I don't need to push very hard. I just want him thinking that this is the strategy. It was almost like a decoy move, which I thought was really great. And also like this thing of this since he went to light heavyweight, this weird thought process around the best way to beat Pereira is a wrestler and like not striking. When we saw him lose 4 out of 5 rounds in the first Israel Adesanya fight, you know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like he got beat for the first 4 rounds of that fight.
Mhm.
It wasn't like he was this ultimate striker that was beating everyone every round that he was fighting them. It was very clear that like Izzy had him figured out, knew what he needed to do, was pressuring him a lot of the time. And it was really, I think we'd even called it out before, like when Alex Pereira is moving backwards or when Izzy is moving backwards, both of them as fighters, they're nowhere near as good. And so when Ankalaev came out and immediately took the initiative, it was like, oh shit, this is not good for Pereira. He's not
Mhm.
good on the back foot. Um, yeah, it kind of, I don't know, but at the same time, Pereira now has defended 12 takedowns, so I guess it kind of moves on to the next question, which is not that this has happened. If they rematch, who do you favor in the rematch?
I mean, that's the thing. Do we think this was a flash in the pan for Ankalaev, or are we seeing the true Ankalaev come out now?
Well, I
History would tell me that this may have been a one-time thing, but we also did say that we also did say that, you know, he has the skills and maybe he's finally developing the ability to implement said skills.
yeah, like I don't know if it's necessarily a flash in the pan because he's always had these skills. It's just for one night he finally was able to bring them together.
Yes.
History says he can't do that more often than not, so I don't know. I my biggest question is what does Pereira look at from this fight and change about what he needs to do in the next fight? Because
Mhm.
it did strike me that Pereira did seem really nervous about the takedown. It did seem that he like almost over-indexed mentally towards defending that takedown. Because
Mhm.
every time he defended it, it was like with extreme urgency. Right, he beat 12 takedowns. And it seemed like, I mean, this was Ankalaev's highest strike output for a
Yeah.
fight across 5
Mhm.
rounds. And for 5 rounds, this was the lowest strike output for Ankalaev. Right? It was lower than the
For
Khalil round
for Pereira.
for Pereira. Sorry, this was lower than the Izzy fight. This was lower than the Khalil Rountree fight. This was pretty low overall for him. Like, I
Mhm.
wonder if he just goes, I don't need to worry as much about the takedowns. I can let my hands go a little bit more overall.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
think that's definitely something. I mean, that is what he's going to have to do. That is the adjustment that he's going to need to make.
yeah.
Um, I do want to point out though, like when we compare, the person who did beat and beat him for 4 rounds before getting knocked out was Izzy. That was also like prime height of his powers. Izzy, who has like almost unmatched striking. Like I would not compare Ankalaev's striking ability to Izzy's striking ability. So that that saying that like just being a good or disciplined striker is the key to being Pereira. But I think it is a mix of, like, yeah, almost lulling Pereira into thinking this is going to be a wrestling match, and I'm going to, it's like you said, over indexing on that. Because even him overthinking it or thinking more that that's going to be the primary thing that he has to defend against makes it as effective as if he was actually throwing those kind of techniques. It's kind of like everyone is afraid of Pereira's leg kick. So even though he's not throwing it, that alone makes people wary.
Yeah, it's kind of, man, I can't remember whose quote it is. Is it Karl Marx? Is it Mussolini? The threat of violence is often more effective than the violence itself, right? Like
Mm.
the threat of the thing often pacifies people much more than even the thing itself. So, like, yeah,
Hmm.
like, but at the same time, like, Ankalaev still did do a very good job. Like I said, that pressuring footwork was not reckless. He constantly maintained outside foot position. He constantly
Yeah.
controlled the lead hand of Pereira. He
Hmm.
constantly, like, dude, a couple of those teep kicks or like push kicks to the body against Pereira were super good. And he was I think again, I kind of wanted to gloat here after watching his striking and how like cleanly he caught Alex a couple of times, and
Yeah.
like how surprised Alex looked. Are you finally ready to admit that he's a better technical striker than Khalil Roundtree?
God, that yeah, I mean, I still again, my bias wants to say no, but I mean, the proof is what we just saw, you
Yeah.
know? And like it's hard to deny it because I mean, he did stagger Pereira in that at the end of that second round and like got him wobbling and falling back into the cage and everything. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean,
And it was
that's
also like a wickedly timed, very fast, uh, right or left hand.
left
Like
straight,
he was
yeah.
really, yeah. Um, and that left straight, Izzy caught him with that. Khalil caught him with that. It's something that like is a known kind of weakness of Alex, and
Mhm,
Ankalaev really lined it up perfectly and found it a few times in this fight.
mhm.
So what do you want to see next? Is it the rematch, or do you want to see, I don't know, Yuri versus Ankalaev, or do you want to see Jan
I
Blachowicz come back in and fight Ankalaev? What do you want to see?
no, I wanna see the rematch.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
think that's
I
fair as
think
well.
not only is that would be that a storyline, something someone would definitely want to see, but you know, Pereira defended his title 3 times in a row within a year. Like that's pretty remarkable. And if anyone deserves an immediate rematch, I feel like it's him. Just
That's
based on what he's accomplished and also the current state of the, you know, the light heavyweight division. Like Pereira's cleared out everyone except for Ankalaev. So like
yeah.
he doesn't need to get like a tune up match to get back to the number one contender. Like who would he fight? Any one of those people you just saw, or you just mentioned, he's already destroyed. And you know, if we're thinking purely business sense, you know, Pereira is a huge draw for the UFC.
He is the
And,
only draw.
and yeah, and he's 37, 38. So it's
Yeah.
like it's a tough thing, you know, afterwards. So
Yeah. I mean, it's a weird thing because you go like, well, did we just let Pereira go up to heavyweight, but maybe the luster's gone? At the same time, you go, do we want to give Pereira like one fight to get his mojo back? Maybe he takes Yuri Prochazka for a third time, demolishes him for a third time,
yeah.
or does he fight Jamal Hill again? Because Jamal Hill, Khalil Roundtree, the winner of that, like maybe that. Um, I don't know. Here's another weird thing. Jan Blachowicz was able to get Magomed Ankalaev straight limping by the third round. Just blasted that fool's legs.
Mhm.
And Alex Pereira was not able to really seem to do anything with his
No.
leg kicks to Ankalaev. Does that mean Jan Blachowicz is a more devastating leg kicker than Alex Pereira?
I,
Because
I
here's the thing, it was a Southpaw Orthodox match, and I was like, how did this happen? And then I went back and I looked at it. Alex Pereira was kicking to the calf, right? He was stepping up and throwing to the outside of the leg.
mhm.
Jan Blachowicz was going shin to shin. He was kicking the lead leg, which is turned in, so he's hitting shin with his own rear leg. So it was just shin to shin kicks constantly, not
Yeah.
giving a shit, and it kept hurting Ankalaev. So I'm like, God damn, Jan Blachowicz, legs of steel. He can just kick someone directly in the shin and not give a shit. Um, I kind of he took Ankalaev to a draw. Everyone else has lost to Ankalaev.
Mhm.
I'm like, I kind of want to see Jan Blachowicz get another shot at this. I
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested in that.
Yeah, I could see that. I want to ask you also, the calf kick has become like this huge, like, oh, secret technique that is so
Ugh.
great. Whatever happened to the inside thigh kick? Because that was like the calf kick before that. And I don't know, I feel like Pereira could have taken huge advantage of that too, especially against Southpaw.
Yeah, I think it's probably two things. One is it's really easy for your leg to or your foot to slide up, and then it counts as a groin kick.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Though, like again, we know like you get 3 or 4 fouls in every UFC fight.
Yeah.
Take them,
Yeah.
right? Take the ball kicks. Why not? The other is you can easily hit the knee, right? Like
Yeah.
as you throw that kick, like somebody even with like a shitty check, now it's toes or top of the foot or ankle right into the kneecap.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think that's probably why people have stopped. And then, like, yeah, I think MMA fighters go like, "Oh yeah, the calf kick is the secret dim mock technique," even though it's totally not. But most MMA fighters also haven't realized you can just like pull your leg back so that they can't calf kick you. So yeah, like it's kind of something where it's like it's an easy free shot with like very low risk.
Risk. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's probably what's going on. If I had to bet,
Mm.
yeah. Especially after that Dustin Poirier Conor McGregor 2 fight where like the
Oh yeah.
entire credit went to like, oh, it was the calf kicks, not the fact that Dustin Poirier like smoked him off of a lead hook repeatedly. But yeah, so yeah, whatever. I just I was impressed to see that Alex Pereira, known as a devastating calf kicker, and then I looked at Jan Blachowicz, and he wasn't even kicking the calf. He's like, "I'll kick you right in the shin with my own shin," and I was like,
Right.
"God damn, son, that's brutal. Oh my god." Um, so yeah, I'd be interested for that fight again. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, if they ran it back, I think it's kind of the fight that needs to happen.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, like you said, Alex Pereira, he's 37. He's not around for a long time. He's the only star really in the UFC, like an actual star that's a big pay per view draw.
Mhm.
Um, you might need to cash in on the next like 3 or 4 fights because they might be his last 3 or 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it might need to be another Yuri. I don't know. After seeing this, I'm like, I don't feel good about Alex Pereira against Tom Aspinall. So
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, but I'd watch another Ankalaev fight.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's this event. I mean, light heavyweight sucks. Whatever. We'll get a rematch. We won't get a rematch. Let's go to the good division. Lightweight.
Yeah.
Justin Gaethje, Rafael Fiziev.
Hmm.
What'd you think about this fight, Colin?
Well, one, it was good. It was nice to see Gaethje getting his win.
Yeah.
There were a couple things that I did like that he did. You know, there was at I think towards the end of the second round, they're in that clinch, and Fiziev was kind of driving him back, and out of nowhere, Gaethje just throws this like roundhouse head kick all the way like from the clinch over the shoulder, which was pretty sweet to see that
Yeah.
he is able to throw that technique.
Yeah.
But it's like
Pretty
you
cool.
said, it's like we were chatting about this. It's like one, again, Gaethje forgot about a jab,
Yeah.
and two just seemed a little gun shy or slow. Whether it was just he's a year older from his last knockout loss. Did the knockout have more damage to him than we thought? Like his busted up nose making it hard for him to breathe. Like, I mean, there's a lot of compounding factors, and age is again not on his side either in a very fast-paced, dynamic division. And yeah, I'm happy he got his fight, but again, he got his win. But I feel like this told me more bad things than good.
Yeah.
I was not like stoked, like, all right, Justin Gaethje's back. He's gonna make another run for the title. We can do this. It was more like, the writing's kind of on the wall now.
Yeah. It did seem like a fighter in his last few fights. Um, he didn't seem as action oriented. He did seem a little bit more gun shy. The thing that is like a little alarming beyond Justin Gaethje, because we have to say like that uppercut that he got the knockdown on, awesome.
Yeah,
The
yeah, that
yeah
was
the
good.
the clinch into a head kick, awesome, right? Like Justin Gaethje, we love him. He's great.
Of course, yeah,
The fact that Fiziev could not beat this aging fighter, the fact that other like young fighters like Benoit Saint-Denis could not defeat Dustin Poirier. The fact that,
yeah,
I mean, we'll talk about it. Like just a year ago, Jalen Turner, 2 years ago, Jalen Turner couldn't beat Dan Hooker. We'll see what happens with Paddy Pimblett and Michael Chandler. But if Michael Chandler wins, like the fact that Paddy Pimblett couldn't beat him, there are all of these aging action fighters who will just not be retired by the sport, but just choose to retire themselves. In which all of this new generation has not replace them. They've just had to wait out them retiring to
Yeah.
go to take their place. Means that the division, once Justin Gaethje, once Max Holloway, once Dustin Poirier, once Michael Chandler, once Charles Oliveira goes away, it won't be a passing of the guard. It'll just be like, all right, now we're bringing in the B team to fill this league. That won't feel as good. That will be kind of bad, right?
I don't know because it depends on how. So for me, okay, again, this is just personal. Like, do we want to see our favorite fighters like basically carted off because they can no longer handle the competition? They've been through too much. They can't handle the dynamics of this sport anymore. Or do we want to see like, okay, like they've closed that chapter and now it's up to the next generation to either step up or like kind of fill in those shoes. And I think we've seen that in a lot of divisions in the past, and some generations have definitely fallen on their faces for that. But then every now and then you get one or two that come up and become those superstars. You know, after I I don't know, like I mean, for middleweight, it's kind of been that way. Like it was kind of this like old guard that stuck around for a little bit, but like there's we talked about the middleweight division as a whole for a while, and then when we had the Izzy and Robert generation come up, it was like they then slotted up. It wasn't like they beat every single person, you know, and they had already the generation before them had kind of aged out by then.
I don't know. I feel like maybe there's an instance or two in total where it's okay, but having an entire class of fighter graduate and not have any of them lose to the up and coming class is really not, especially at lightweight. Like when we really think about the history of lightweight, it was BJ Penn's division, and then Frankie Edgar beat him twice pretty soundly. And then you
Mm,
got the Frankie Edgar, Gray Maynard kind of era of fighters. And then it Benson Henderson won, right? And then it became the Benson Henderson, Anthony Pettis, Gilbert Melendez kind of division of fighters. And then you had this huge stock of fighters come through. Rafael dos Anjos, Eddie Alvarez, Conor McGregor. In that same time, you've got interim title winners like Tony Ferguson, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje. Then you've got Khabib Nurmagomedov. You've got Islam Makhachev. All of them are the same generation that just kind of took over. And if we lose Islam, if we lose Justin, if we lose Dustin, if we lose Max Holloway, if we lose Michael Chandler, suddenly it's Arman Saryukin, Mateusz Gamrot, Beneil Dariush, Hanata Moicano, Rafael Vaziev, Paddy Pimblett. It suddenly becomes a lot less of a dynamic division, and a division that never got that hey, we fully took over and beat all of these former fighters.
I
Right?
think that is part of the nature of it though, because we're spoiled with how many great fighters there are at lightweight. Like no other division is that stacked or competitive.
I mean
And
that's true for now, but
for now, yeah.
yeah, it's different compared to let's just move up to welterweight, because the golden age of welterweight was definitely when it was George St. Pierre, Josh Koscheck, John Fitch, BJ Penn even for a time, Jake Shields, but all of Josh Koscheck was defeated by Robbie Lawler, right? We had Rory McDonald beating some of the former
Mm,
foes of George St. Pierre, and then we had that Rory McDonald, Carlos Condit, uh, Robbie Lawler division, action fighter, blood and guts strikers, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson at that time as well, kind of all in that division, right? And then
yeah,
it
yeah.
became it got taken over by Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington, right? Like this again, back to strong wrestler, really powerful grapplers overall. There kept being this turnover where it wasn't 1-to-1, but you would see the new division kind of consume the old. And so to have this kind of lightweight division where none of the young fighters are able to beat the old fighters, and now it's just going to be, we know Dustin Poirier has one more fight left, and it sounds like it's going to be against Max Holloway, and Max Holloway has said it might be one of his final fights, right?
Yeah.
He might just lose Max, Dustin. Justin says he only has 2 or 3 more fights in him as well. If he wins 2 or 3 more fights, right? or Islam just moves up, and he's already talking about retirement. Like, if all these guys just retire tomorrow, there's no one to fill their shoes. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah. No,
it's
that's 100%.
it's a bad look for the division to like not have. At least Dricus du Plessis and Sean Strickland beat the former champions. You know what I mean? Like, at
Yeah.
least they
Yeah.
beat it. Like, I think that probably the last time we've really seen a division not get a turnover where nobody beat anybody from the past is light heavyweight, right? Nobody beat John Jones. Nobody beat Alexander Gustafsson. Nobody beat Daniel Cormier, right? Like the big standouts. Nobody beat Anthony Johnson. And so light heavyweight now is so stagnant because it's just not as dynamic because they had to wait until all of those people passed out of the division entirely before they could even take the title. And that's
Mhm.
just not that's not what a healthy division looks like,
No, that's fair. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. It's like it's not good, right? It's bad. It's not what you want. You want like heavyweight boxing. You want Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury to beat the Klitschko's, right? So that there can be, hey, there's this turning of the guard, and then they've got their own generation in Usyk and Deontay Wilder to challenge them. You don't want the Klitschko's to be able to beat them both back and then eventually just retire and go, okay, you can just take over now that I'm out of here.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's like we've never really had it at lightweight, but it feels like it's coming because
Yeah.
lightweight's always had that turnover and always a really dynamic turnover. Uh, it's a it's a bad feeling. It's a bad
Yeah.
feeling. Yeah. So what do we do at lightweight, Colin? Because we have
I
Justin Gaethje coming off of a win.
yeah.
We have Fiziev after getting 2 cracks at Gaethje, not winning. What do we do here? Because we've got a pretty crowded top 15. Well, also, hold on. Let's, because this relates to it. Let's talk about this Jalen Turner, Ignacio Bahamundes fight.
Yeah.
What were your feelings about that fight, Colin?
Oh boy. Yeah. I mean, it was kind of like you said. It was, Ignacio Bahamundes is an entertaining, just like swing for the fences. Like he is high risk, high reward. You know,
Mhm.
and if he's against a skilled, if he's matched up with someone who has skill and can counter that, explosive power or athleticism, like he leaves himself very, very open.
Yeah.
And Jalen Turner had that potential, but Jalen Turner also infected with donkey brains. And
Yeah.
and you said, did you say Jalen Turner retired after this?
Yes, he did. He retired.
Yeah, yeah, that's a little rough, But
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Bahamundes is someone who can step up in the lightweight division. If he develops any sort of discipline, or kind of like we talked about with Ankalaev. Maybe he can rein it in a little bit, and he could become the next heir to an action fighter. You know.
Maybe. I mean, the thing that I noticed was that Jalen Turner was piecing him up before it went to the ground.
Mhm.
Right, like Bahamundes was not landing very much, and Jalen Turner was landing a lot. The other thing I noticed was that Jalen Turner was doing pretty good ground and pound, and then that triangle went in, and Jalen Turner was like sitting bolt upright. He wasn't like crunched over at all, which made me go like, "Oh, he's gonna be totally fine." And then Jalen Turner's like, "Let me put my leg on the side of your body and turn myself into the choke." And I was
Yeah.
going, what are you doing here?" And then Bahamundes is like, "Let me grab both of your wrists and pull you forward." And I'm like, "Oh man, that's the first thing you learn as a white belt. Never let anyone grab both your wrists." And Jalen Turner let it happen. And I went, "What's going on here?" It reminded me a lot of the second time Anthony Rumble Johnson fought Daniel Cormier, and he was lighting him up on the feet, just
Mhm.
like smoking Daniel Cormier's ass. And then out of nowhere, Rumble Johnson shot for a takedown. And everyone was going, "What's going on here? Why is he shooting for a takedown?" And then Daniel Cormier, like he does, immediately counter wrestles, gets to a better position, and chokes out Anthony Johnson. And it turns out Anthony Johnson afterwards said, "Oh man, I'm retiring anyway. I was always planning to retire after this." And you kind of wonder, did you not consciously sabotage it, but get to a position where you go like, "I'm winning this fight, but I don't really want to continue. And if I win, I won't be able to like give myself the reason to retire. And so if I just turn my body this way, oops, he got me in a choke, right? If I just am a little less careful with my submission defense, it won't look like I threw the fight. It won't look like I gave up. It just looks like, ooh, I got caught."
Mm.
That was kind of the vibe I got, right? Like it's
Mm.
very easy, much more than in like boxing or a striking sport, where like throwing a fight is very hard because you get hurt. Whereas like in a grappling situation, if you just like turn your back and kind of like lift your chin a little and don't fight the hands, it's very easy to look like, oh, the he just sunk in the choke really fast.
Mm.
Like that's kind of what I got the sense from Jalen Turner. So
Mm.
I don't know how much to really like say Bahamundez looked great, other than like he was very urgent the whole fight. He
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
definitely doing a lot. But
Mhm.
beyond that, I was like, man, Jalen Turner looked like he was prepared to lose this fight, you know?
Mm.
Yeah.
That
So
see that I hope that's not actually what it was, because to see someone like in any competitive sport basically just phone it in or look for a reason to retire or look for a reason to just like walk out of the sport. You never want to see that from a competitive standpoint, let alone a sport where it is like you are literally putting your safety on the line every single time. Like that's never the look you want to have.
but it's kind of like the Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz one, right? Like when Conor got tired and shot for that takedown, it was super sloppy, and then he immediately turtled, knowing that Nate could get his back, and then he didn't even fight the hands to stop the rear
Mhm.
naked choke, right? Like we know that he's high enough level, and we've seen him fight the hands before in a rear naked choke position, and like once he's in that turtle, either roll or like get to a better position. But he like didn't in that moment, which makes you feel like not necessarily not necessarily he was so tired, but just, oh man, I'm not willing to kind of like go to the next level. I'll just kind of let the loss come to me and
Mm.
not put up too much resistance. You know what I mean? And that's what it felt like with Jalen Turner. Was he was just kind of like, ah, it didn't come easy. I didn't get the knockout quickly. I'm
Right.
not. I don't really want to be here anymore.
Mm.
And he had said like even prior to that UFC 300 fight against Renato Moicano, he was kind of questioning whether he wanted to keep fighting.
Uh,
And then that one went poorly, and he took a whole year to think about if he wanted to keep fighting. And it just seems like he kind of came to the conclusion that he doesn't.
mm.
So it's a bummer, but like I hope he does well in whatever he does. But like I kind of discount or handicap this win by Bahamundez
Right.
overall.
Right.
Yeah, but
No,
I
that's
mean,
fair.
your plum pick went well.
It did. It did.
Yeah, I was like, because the first 2 minutes of this, I'm like, dude, Jalen Turner is gonna make Colin look like a fool, and then he went to the ground and he's pounding with elbows. I'm like, dude, this is in the bag for Jalen Turner. And then Jalen Turner slowly left his arm in position to get triangled, and like the extremely slow throwing up of the legs, Jalen Turner did not defend. And then Jalen Turner turned into it as if he was trying to tighten it slightly. And I was like, what is happening? Why is he doing this? And then he tapped. So,
Yeah.
but getting back to it, Colin, we now have this lightweight division, which is very strange. We've got
It's
I-
extremely top heavy. Like,
Islam Makachev, and
yep.
in the rankings, we don't have Ilia Topuria, but we know Ilia Topuria is moving into there. But we've got Islam Makachev. We've got Ilia Topuria floating around. Arman Suyukin has no fight.
No.
Charles Oliveira has no fight, but is coming off a win. Justin Gaethje is coming off of a win. It sounds like Dustin Poirier and Max Holloway possibly in a dual retirement fight. will be
Mhm.
fighting, or at least Dustin Poirier's. Dan Hooker was supposed to fight, has no fight. Michael Chandler will be fighting Paddy Pimblett. And then we've got Matej Gamrot, Beneil Dariush, Hanato Moicano, Rafael Faziev, no more Jalen Turner, Grant Dawson, and most likely Ignacio Bahamundes. Colin, what do we do with the top 10 of this division? What matches do you want to see out of this lightweight division?
Okay. First of all, will Ilya get an immediate title fight against Islam?
I don't know, but you tell me, what is your ideal for this? Because we already know we can rule out Dustin and Max. They're doing their own thing.
Yeah. I
So what do
mean,
we do with Islam? What do we do with Armin? What do we do with Justin? What do we do with Charles?
so Arman's not getting a championship fight. So either it just depends what you want to do with Ilya. If you want Ilya to quote unquote earn his way in lightweight, put him against Arman or put him against Charles. You know, those
Well, hold on.
would both be.
Which one's better? Come now.
Okay. Honestly, I think Charles and Islam, if we want an immediate lightweight fight right now, or because Islam, yeah, whatever, he defended his title, sure, but and Arman has to fight to get a title shot again, and Ilya going to fight against a strong grappler like Arman will prove okay, you can hang with the bigger lightweight boys, and if he makes quick work of Arman, then that makes a very intriguing matchup against Islam, who is, the wrestling grappler heavy. Again, kind of like we saw, can Ilya handle that? Because we've never seen him really have to use grappling. And Charles against Islam, I would definitely like to see again. So, those would be my ideal picks there.
So then Justin will fight Dan Hooker?
Dan Hooker's going to be on the shelf for a while after that surgery. So I don't know.
He'll be back faster than we think. I mean, I think the weird thing is I feel weird if Ilya just had the most sensational 2-fight win streak I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
To suddenly put him up against physically the largest lightweight in Armin Tsarukyan and just a top controlling grappler, I go well, that's not the best use of Ilya. That seems a little silly to me. I think if Ilya's not going to get Islam, well, this is also another thing. Islam's camp is now called for the Justin Gaethje fight. They really want that Justin Gaethje fight over Charles or Armin, which I'm kind of why? We already saw Justin fight Khabib. We already kind of know how this go, right? Kind of like Dustin Poirier. I'm glad Dustin Poirier got his last hurrah, but is Islam's whole career gonna be Alex Volkanovski and the lightweights getting their last hurrah? That seems a little silly to me. I think I'd prefer Islam versus Ilya overall. Let's see where you're at. I think a Justin Gaethje versus Armin Tsarukyan would be good.
Okay.
Possibly, and then a Charles Oliveira versus Dan Hooker. I think that could be a good one. I mean, I'd even see Justin Gaethje versus Charles Oliveira again, and then maybe. But then I feel bad about Dan Hooker versus Ilya or Armin Tsarukyan. God, Dan Hooker versus Ilya Topuria could be good, or Justin Gaethje versus Ilya Topuria. You know what I mean? There's a lot of options there.
Yeah.
The issue is when you get past that, top 7, Tej Gamrot, Beneil Dariush. Not as good. We are getting Paddy Pimblett versus Michael Chandler. I mean, do we just start doing that with Dan Hooker? Do we do Hanato Moicano and Dan Hooker? See what that looks like?
I mean, maybe.
Do we do
not super stoked about that, but
Yeah. Ignacio Bahamundes against Justin Gaethje? I don't know. Yeah, it's I think anything in the top 7 is a good action fight. It's just what do we what do we do with all of them? And
Right.
like, it's weird because I feel like we should just do Armansukin versus Lomachenko. That'd be really easy. And then Justin Gaethje, Ilya Topuria. Like,
Right.
put them both on the same card. That's an amazing card. Like, let's just do
Mhm.
that. But they're probably not gonna do that. So
No.
yeah, yeah. Anyway, all right. Let's talk about the rest of this card real fast.
Okay.
What was the fight before this? Was it the Amanda Lemos
Yep.
fight? Yeah, let's
Yep.
not talk
Yep.
about that. Let's not talk about that. Look, women's MMA is in a bad spot right now. It's just not. It doesn't have the stars. It doesn't have the storylines. It doesn't even have the talent, really. Um,
Yeah.
we love Zhang Weili and Yan Shannon, but that's about it. And it's a rough time. And then before that, what do you want to say about King Green and Mauricio Huffy?
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Were you as impressed by the kick? Whereas everyone is saying this is immediate knockout of the year contender, one of the best knockouts that will stand the test of time. How impressed were you by this knockout?
Um, Let me say this. I was more impressed with this one than the stupid ass double spinning back fist.
So it's better than a Shara bullet?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
That's
Um,
pretty low praise.
yeah. I mean, the problem with this spinning wheel kick was it wasn't really set up with anything.
How dare you? It was set up with a huge fainting left hook. No, I'm being serious. Ariel Hawani, Luke Thomas, a ton of people are being like, "Wow, it was so amazing that he set it up with this left hook."
Yeah, I don't agree with that. Like,
Yeah, we'll explain why. Let's illuminate. Let's elucidate for the audience.
okay. So, like there was nothing to say that like when you say you set it up with the hook, it means that you were throwing the hook that way and King Green or your opponent, whoever in this case King Green, kept having a specific response to that hook. So you're literally baiting that in to set up this kick or this move afterwards. And I didn't see any of that, you know? So like again, I don't believe in luck in fighting because you drill techniques, you drill movements, you set them up that way, through your training. But King Green also has this habit of like, the way he moves around with like he kind of moves randomly, and that's what makes him really tough to read. And he fights a lot with his hands down. And the danger with that is if you move randomly with your hands down, you will walk into a strike and you basically counter yourself. And when it's a very fast, high paced movement, like a spinning kick that way, it's going to have pretty devastating effects, even if it barely connects. This one connected very hard, but even if it barely
Yeah,
connected, you could still have the exact same effect, you know? So it was well timed in that he used a technique that was hard to see against someone who was moving pretty randomly with his hands down. So it was like this weird kind of combination of things all lining up to work out properly for Mauricio Huffy. So I don't know. Like I also thought that Mauricio Huffy was doing well in the beginning. Like I thought he was getting the better of some of the striking exchanges, and yeah, I mean it was an entertaining knockout, but it wasn't like he was setting that specific movement up. Yeah, it wasn't like I was looking at like, oh wow, he's stepping in this way where he's definitely going to do a spinning wheel kick now. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. Maybe seeing that hook, like a minute before. Not, I mean, not a minute. It was obviously within a second, but like the second he threw it, I was like, oh, he's gonna spin. Nobody
Hmm.
throws a hook like that unless he's like torquing his body specifically. And the thing was like, it wasn't super kinetically connected to his body. So he threw it, and it was just because Bobby stood there hands down and leaned straight back that he was like, "Oh, okay, I can keep turning with my hips," because he hasn't used his feet to move in any direction
Hmm.
overall. So it was like a good kick, and like it was like seeing Bobby slump like that or King slump like that. It was like, oh damn. But yeah, I was like, that's not going to work against higher level opponents. That works
Right.
against someone who lost against Patty Pimblett. You know what I mean? Um, yeah. So, but I can say the fighting nerds. I I don't know what ties them all together as like a, like most fight camps have kind of like a similar style or a similar strategy or similar kind of like approach to the fight game. The fighting nerds, Kyle Bahalio, Carlos Prates, Blue Jean Silva, Mauricio Huffy, like I don't know what connects any of them because they all fight entirely differently, but they are all very entertaining. So
Yeah.
worthwhile to keep an eye on them. Like I don't know how they've like scouted their people to train with or like what their drills are because they all fight so differently. I'm like, I don't really know. It's not like the Abdulmanap camp where they're all, they have the kind of the same like heavy top grappling Dagestani wrestling, or it's not like AKA where it's really powerful wrestlers that learn a bit of boxing and kickboxing. It's not the Greg Jackson camp of like kind of wonky strikers that get into decent grappling exchanges. It's not, ATT, which is wall walking and good boxing. They're just like a bunch of Brazilian dudes who knock people out a bunch. So I
Yeah.
don't like know exactly how to go, oh, let's replicate that because I don't even you can't even pick up on exactly what the like training methodology is for all of them.
I mean, they kind of follow some of the old school traditional, like almost cliche Brazilian fighters of like hyper violent, explosive striking. When you have people like Vitor Belfort or Vanderlei Silva, things
So
like
like
that.
shoot a box, just get in
Yeah,
there, swang and bang.
pretty much. Yeah,
All right, all right. So shoot a box 2.0. That's what we
yeah,
call the fighting
yeah.
nerd.
Let's go that. Yeah, I like that. I like that.
All right, all right. Yeah. So I mean, entertaining. I'll be interested to see where they all go in a few years. Like, dude, it might be something where we've got at 145 John Silva, at lightweight we've got Mauricio Huffy, like at middleweight we've got Kai Bahalio, at welterweight we have Carlos Prates. We might have like a full takeover uh, of all these weirdos just
Yeah,
doing weird shit.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you will say it would be exciting to see like what crazy, like insane striking techniques they pull out. So it would
Hmm.
be entertaining. It would be entertaining at least.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. And then last fight on this card worth talking about, Ray Soria, Josh Van. Did you see this?
I did, and I actually want to ask you. A lot of people have been calling this a fraud check fight for Ray Soria. Do you believe that? Do you think that? I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. That terminology being thrown around like that.
I think that's kind of a weird way to look at this fight.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, that's like a weird. That strikes me as weird. That'd be like if we had Bo Nickel up against I don't know. Let's say Bo Nickel up against Jared Cannonier or Kyle Bahalio or Robert Whitaker, and Robert Whitaker stuffed 15 of his takedowns overall. I'd be like, wow, good on Robert Whitaker for stuffing the takedowns of like a truly, you know, 0.1% wrestler on earth.
yeah,
That's really impressive for Josh Fan that he did that, right?
yeah,
Rather than, oh man, this is what a bummer for Ray Saruya. I'm like, this is an elevation of Josh Fan's game where he had struggled with wrestlers before, and now he's shown against the most pure wrestler in this division he can stuff it. And yeah, Ray Saruya may not be able to go that far, but like, do I think Ray Saruya wouldn't be able to take down Steve Urseg or Aso
mhm,
Almabayev or like Alex Perez? I think he probably could. I
mhm.
think it shows that Josh Fan is fucking wicked sick.
Yeah,
Like, I think that's what that means. Less than, though I will say, Ray Surya, once he realizes you can throw punches in a fight, I think he'll be very good. You know what I
mhm.
mean? Like,
Yeah,
that's kind of what I realized out of this.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I realized for this it was like very much not a fraud check, but it was like, hey, your unorthodox wrestling worked against unskilled, or let me say, not as skilled or not as experienced fighters. But now that you're in the big leagues, you need a more diverse skill set, especially at lighter weights where people can challenge you more. You can't be so stacked in one area in these divisions against this
Yeah.
level competition.
Yeah. But I think it's one of those things where it's like, I mean, I just named 2 or 3 people in the top 15 that I think his skill set as it stands for Ray Soria, he could probably beat.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of, so like he could be a top 15, possibly a top 10 fighter as is, just with like the right matchmaking. He just will never be able to contend for a title. But
Right.
that
Right.
shouldn't really be our takeaway of this story. The takeaway should be Josh Van might be a top 10 fighter right now if we
Yeah.
just give him the opportunity to fight. Like, I mean, could Josh Van beat my boy Asamoah Bayev? Yeah, probably. Could Josh Van beat Bruno Silva? Probably.
Yeah.
Kaya Sakura? I think so. So like let's
That
get
would
him
that
in
would be
there
a fun
against.
matchup to see him
Oh,
against Kaya Sakura. That'd be
that's what
good.
it's gotta be. It's gotta be Kaya Sakura and Josh Van next. It has to be. That's the only fight that makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's get him into the top 15. Let's have him fight another Japanese fighter. Like I said, I want him to beat Kaya Sakura, then I want him to beat Tatsuro Taira, then he fights for the title. That's the 3 fights. He's
All
already
right.
got the
All
race
right.
Korea. Let's do it. Let's move him through. No, this fight was great. And it really showed me like, all right, Josh Van's ready. Let's get him into top 15 fights. No more unranked fighters overall. And then yeah, Ray Soria. I don't know, it's weird because it's like Ray Soria, I've seen him in other fights have much better striking than he had here.
Yeah.
And so I think it's one of those things when you stuff his first takedown so definitively, he kind of goes, "Oh shit,
Well, yeah.
this guy can stuff my takedown," and so his striking begins to immediately suck. And it's like he needs to take a little bit of time to get comfortable just striking
Mhm.
because I feel like if he can take someone down in the first minute, he really relaxes, and then his hands get a little bit better overall. Yeah. Anyway, all right. Well, that was 313. Weird card.
Yep.
We've
Yeah.
talked about a
Yeah.
lot of stuff. It's yeah, weird card. I mean, light heavyweights now in shambles. Heavyweights in shambles. Lightweights kind of a clusterfuck and doesn't look good for the future. But flyweight's looking good. So
Yeah.
that's nice. We like that. Colin, what's coming up this weekend?
Oh boy. Well, a fight that you will not be watching, I know for sure.
Yeah, it's on Apex. Are there any fights this weekend that you're interested in seeing?
Unless there's a boxing fight. Nope.
Yeah, there's nothing on the shoot. So, I mean, what the big UFC fight is UFC Apex of Vittori Delize 2. Colin, what's your quick plum pick for that fight? Alright, it's probably going to be Roman Delize by unanimous decision. Who cares?
Yeah,
We're
I
not
don't
gonna
even
talk about
know.
that. We're
Fuck
not
it.
gonna
I
talk
don't
about
know.
that.
Who cares?
Yeah, that fight sucks. Who cares? I think in talking, I'm feeling energized to talk about. On Friday, we've just talked about how like lightweight has had this natural turnover, and we might be entering a horrible period in which lightweight, rather than being the fun action division we've known for many years, might end up turning into a really shitty division. And so what I want to do is I want to go through each weight class and name its golden division, name its worst division, and then place where we think the current status of the division is.
You mean like
Overall.
it's golden generation?
Yes. So
Okay.
for
Okay. Okay.
instance, for heavyweight, we would say, of course, it was during Pride heavyweight reign, which would be the Tim Sylvia, Andre Arlovsky in the UFC. But we had Fedor, we had Stipe, we had Nogueira in Pride, and the worst heavyweight has ever been might be right now with John Jones and Tom Aspinall, and fuck all else, right? And then we will go through and talk about each division and place the current status of each division. Like, where is it historically in performance? Is this the best that flyweight has ever been? Is this the worst that light heavyweight has ever been? Is this the most middleweight has ever been? We will go through and just kind of rank those things, but we need to have best times and worst times for each division.
All right, all right. The
Does that
best of
make sense?
times and the worst of times. Yeah, yeah. No, I
Yeah,
like it. I
exactly.
like it.
So, and like, let's give a little bit of thought to like actually naming out each era for each division, because there's only right for like flyweight, there's only really 3 eras. There's the Demetrius Johnson, there's the like kind of post Demetrius Johnson, which was Brandon Moreno and Figueroa, and then there's the post that like quadrilogy. So there's only 3 real kind of eras for flyweight, and then we can rank them. But there's much more, of course, for light heavyweight and middleweight and welterweight and lightweight.
Yeah, yeah.
We got to talk about.
All right, all right.
So yeah, let's do that, because
I'm with
we're
it.
not
Yeah,
talking
I like
about
it.
a middleweight Apex card. Are you fucking kidding me? Garbage. But then after that, the week after that, we do have that UFC in London card, which has got Edwards Brady, Jan Blachowicz versus Carlos Oberg, Gunnar Nelson coming back against Kevin Holland.
Yeah, I
Nathaniel
was like,
Wood.
what the fuck?
Yeah. So we got some good shit on this card.
All
But
right,
I'm
yeah.
not gonna talk about that. Oh wait, hold on. I have to do call out. We do have the worst fighter on the entire UFC roster. Shauna Bannon, unfortunately, is fighting on this card. Sorry, Shauna Bannon. You are the worst UFC fighter. And the curtain jerker for the prelims is the most underrated lightweight of all time. Guram Kuchitiladze is fighting, which is
Okay,
pretty crazy.
okay.
He's very good. He kind of looks like if Abraham Lincoln was a assassin. It's pretty cool. Anyway, all right, everybody. That's kind of our recap of UFC 313. It was a hodgepodge. It was a in Reading solid C+ card. That's all we have to say. I'm one fight fan, Stuart.
I'm the other Colin.
And don't watch the Apex card this weekend. All right, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.